Meanwhile, the US Vice-President Kamala Harris has had what she describes as a frank and constructive meeting with the visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In it, the Democratic presidential hopeful expressed her serious concern about Palestinian civilian casualties in Israel's war with Hamas. She also reiterated her unwavering commitment to the US allies' security, but urged Mr Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire deal. Let's hear some of what Kamala Harris had to say after the meeting.
I have met with the families of these American hostages multiple times now, and I've told them each time they are not alone, and I stand with them. And President Biden and I are working every day to bring them home. I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. And I made clear my serious concern about the dire humanitarian situation there, with over 2 million people facing high levels of food insecurity, and 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of acute food insecurity. What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent. It is time for this war to end, and end in a way where Israel is secure, all the hostages are released, the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can exercise their right to freedom, dignity, and self-determination. There has been hopeful movement in the talks to secure an agreement on this deal. And as I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done.
Our North America correspondent David Wills gave us the latest from Washington.
Benjamin Netanyahu met with both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris today, and the White House, in a readout of his meeting with Joe Biden, said that Mr Biden called for a ceasefire in Gaza and for the release of the remaining hostages as soon as possible, as it put it. And Kamala Harris, as we just heard, went further than that, registering her concern about the growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza and saying that the time had come to do a deal. And she also said to Mr Netanyahu that she would not be silent about the suffering of the Palestinian people. Now, some here are taking that to mean that she may adopt a different stance, perhaps a more aggressive stance towards Israel than Joe Biden has done, should she be elected, of course, in the presidential election in November. Kamala Harris has been critical of the Israeli administration, most recently back in March. And a lot of people have been looking to see what she makes of Benjamin Netanyahu's visit these last few days as some sort of indication of how she would engage with the Israelis going forward.